So you're here at the CyberTech event. How's the event going for you so far?
Yeah, you know, it's quite amazing to have again the feeling of conference, to see real people, to feel them and to be together. Yeah, the in-person experience is really great, and we have here also great contents, people, technologies, discussions, amazing.
You had a session today, right? What was the session about?
So I had the pleasure to have a session at the main plenary regarding the topic of the attacks from the front line, and it was great. You know, the hall was full of people that joined to hear this topic. Probably this is quite a hot topic. And during the session, it was like to touch an example of such an attack, like how it feels, and then to discuss several takeaways, the trends, what we see in the attackers' space, and also several strategies to cope with such attacks or to improve the cyber resiliency.
So Yaniv, how does it feel when you get attacked?
Oh, it's you know, this is unpleasant is an understatement. I mean, we see, usually you think, cyber technology, things like this, but actually a cyber attack challenged many of the organizational, I would say, attributes, many of the organizational processes. When organization get this thing or is hit by such an attack, so suddenly you see many questions like how the CEO and the CIO, the CISO should work together, but you have to, if you haven't planned it, so you have to decide it right now during a crisis. It's not the right time. Suddenly there are like questions about where is our data, to what extent we know where is our data, otherwise maybe what the attackers tell me, especially if it's a ransomware, if I can be sure that my data is here or there, and many other things of how to control the situation, to make the decisions, to run this process. All of these things are really kind of tough in a very condensed timeline.
So what's interesting about the time of crisis, you know, a lot of it has to do with the way you deal with it, like the first hours, the first days, right? When you get that phone call, right, and you come in and you have the first conversation, what are the typical questions you get asked?
Yeah, so you know, sometimes we see that in part of course there are many technical questions that regarding what is your what is the system, what are the other things, but our approach is to try and to quickly understand what was the origins of the attack, what are the technologies, what is the status currently, where is the attacker, and to try to I would say control and to on the one hand to I would say manage the crisis, on the other hand to contain the situation, to recover the important systems. You know, part of the organizations, they are fine with okay, we will be down for 2 days. Others, they cannot afford not being online even few hours. You know, the industry of the critical infrastructure, healthcare, gaming, these are all industries that they cannot afford being out of business for several hours. So they would ask us to do things that are different than other companies, that they can say, okay, we can shut down our business for a while, but we want to understand better what happened and things like this. So these are all things that you have to understand and to manage these several tracks according to what the client and the business put as the main, I would say, strategic ideas.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you spend a lot of time, at least in the beginning, understanding the situation, almost like in the military terms, what it is the current attack looks like. What are the assets that are currently available, and what situation that they are in, and then also from a business perspective to see how critical is somebody's system to the business, whether they can be down for a few hours, or if down for a few days is okay. So when you progress through that crisis, what's the how do you determine that you are being successful? Because it's not a turn on-off switch. There's a kind of stages within the crisis, right? So how do you know that you're going the right direction and things are going to improve?
Yeah. So you start with the position that something was compromised. Sometimes there is the double extortion situation that the attacker, not just that they encrypted, for example, your data or have done something to your systems, but they have also data that they want to publish. So in that sense, the success, I would say, is how you manage and control and try to minimize the damage according to what could be done, or what could happen during such a scenario. And when we conclude such a case, and usually we build kind of a timeline of what happened in every case, so in every moment, and what the steps, so you can see how, if you will take as a reference what could happen, so you can see what is the value that we succeeded to contribute with the client according to their directives regarding their business, their appetite, their values, their regulation, paying ransom or not. These are questions that we do not decide if to pay or not. This is the client decision. We help with information, but according to this client appetite or values or regulation, so then we will do the best in order to help to manage this process.
So you probably get this asked a lot. So I know, for example, that I have a phone number for a plumber, and you know where I'm going with this, right? So I know, for example, when something happens with my roof or whatever, I have a roofer so that I can call. Is it worth to speak to somebody like yourself and be acquainted with what you do, what your company does, prior to a crisis? Isn't it going to simplify the process of mitigating after the fact much easier?
Definitely. I mean, exactly as the example that you mentioned, and we see the market goes to this. I mean, it's not the right time to start to do introductions during crisis. The right thing is to choose who will be your partner in the crisis, to invite the relevant company, and of course Sygnia as a leading IR company, so we provide these services, and we have the capabilities, the tools, the methodologies, the experience, whatever, the best talent. But when we have the engagement with the client earlier, we do kind of an onboarding. We understand that we know the high level understanding of the client business, architecture, things like this before. If something happens in a very short time, you start to provide value. And if you take more extensive like a service, and you say, we want to get prepared, we want to exercise, we want to improve our resiliency, because in every such IR there is no only single reason of yes, how the attackers succeeded. We see several reasons. So if we do the right things before, we can prevent such a crisis. So these are all things that definitely are very fruitful to do them before such a case.
So Dr. Harel, I suggest that CISOs will have a magnet with your phone number they put on the fridge, but to have the relationship with you prior to. It's very highly recommended. Thank you for dropping by. Hopefully I'll see you in the happy hour right after. Looking forward to the next conversation.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. My pleasure. Thank you very much.